My name is Sergio Siderman. I'm an attorney. I practice immigration law. I've been practicing since 1997. My bar license is in California. I've got 8 offices in California, Nevada, and Florida. We are the largest immigration firm in the country, and we focus mostly on family immigration practice. This includes asylum cases, family petitions, U visas, VAWAs, pretty much everything related to the immigration process. Our newest office is here in Fresno, and it's on Shaw. Our phone number is 559-800-7080. And if you have any immigration questions, feel free to give us a call. The consultations are always free. We don't do family practice, we don't do criminal law. The immigration area of law is so complicated that we don't believe that you can really specialize in anything other than immigration. The U.S. Supreme Court has even said that next to the tax code in the United States, the immigration area of practice is the most complicated. So we are singularly focused on immigration. Toughest cases are typically those where a person has multiple entries into the United States without proper documentation, and where they may have deportation orders after 1996. Even if you were just turned around at the border, that usually counts as a deportation, as if a judge had given you a deportation. It's called an expedited removal, and those cases are tougher than cases where a person was never detained at the border. So, but still, we can still work with them. We can still eventually get them some relief, whether it be a work authorization, green card, and eventually citizenship. But those are the tougher cases. Multiple arrests and turnarounds at the border after 1996. The Supreme Court saw it the same way when they stopped the prior Trump administration from trying to strip the DACA recipients of their work authorizations. And they specifically talked about how valuable all these DACA recipients are to our economy. How many of them are nurses? How many of them hold vital jobs, first responders, etc. So I don't see those that have DACA, that have the work authorization through the Dreamer program, I don't see them at risk. I don't see them, regardless of what Trump may say. The Supreme Court has already intervened on this matter and sided with those recipients. So I don't see it coming back differently. You don't want to miss your renewal on DACA for that work authorization. And it'll be a case-by-case situation to see if there's a way that we can work around it. But oftentimes a failure to renew results in an inability to get it back. Tough. Current climate with the new administration, I think there's a lot of fear. Some of it's justified, some of it isn't. The best advice I can give is to be well informed. And when I say well informed, that's not being informed via TikTok, Instagram, your friends, your family members. You need to talk to an expert, and the good immigration attorneys that have been doing this for a long time, the vast majority of them, including myself, will always give the consultation for free. Meaning we will analyze your situation, we will take into account how you entered the country, we'll take into account if you were ever turned around at the border, we will take into account if you have family members that are residents or U.S. citizens, take into account if you're ever a victim of a crime in this country, to find a way that you can at least get a work authorization and hopefully a residency as well. But best advice is inform yourself and do it via an attorney that will give you a consultation for free. Reagan amnesty, they didn't take advantage of the 245I during the Clinton administration. There are still opportunities. The good fortune that people with longer periods of time in the US have is, number one, they entered before 1996, which for most of them means that the road is going to be a little easier. Even if they entered undocumented, they're not going to have that risk of the expedited removal on their record. And given the amount of time they've been in the country, most of them will have connections to the US that new arrivals don't. For example, they may have married US citizens or residents. They may have kids that were born in the US. There's a huge benefit to having a child that or spouse or parent that serves in the military or as a reservist. That's a really quick and easy way to get a green card for a parent, is if a child registers with the military or at least with the reserves. So the longer people have been here, the more opportunities they tend to have. And the key is just talk to any good immigration attorney. They will know what to look for. And in most cases, they should be able to find a way to get you relief. Been a really significant punishment, regardless of who has been president, what the administration, Republican, Democrat. It's barely a slap on the wrist to employ undocumented people in the United States. And the reality is, whether you're Republican or Democrat, everyone knows that our society comes to a grinding halt if all of a sudden we don't have immigrants in this country. How are you going to rebuild Los Angeles without immigrants? It's not going to happen. The cost of construction would double, triple. I don't see any real punishments coming to employers anytime soon, because that would really damage the economy. And in general, the immigrants, and every study you look at, will have less of an impact. They put in more into the economy than they take out. They are a net positive, regardless of the study you use, unless it's a really biased Stephen Miller type study. The Stanford studies, the Harvard studies, they all show that the immigrants are a net positive to the country. And then there's a really good Stanford study on how immigrants are per capita less likely to be incarcerated than white-born Americans. So almost every argument against immigration fails when you look under the covers. But it helps sell the ticket for the Republican voters, and it worked, at least for this administration. It repeats itself in different countries over and over again. Worst case scenario was Germany in the 30s and the Holocaust. And while we aren't anywhere close to the murder and extermination of people like the Germans did, a lot of the tactics that were used by the brown shirts and the Nazis against foreigners or people that they just didn't like within their society are being employed right now. The idea of going into schools and pulling children out is abhorrent. And the closest thing that we can relate that to were the Nazi tactics. It's unheard of, unacceptable, and even those that voted for Trump, I think, the advertisement of the campaign was that they were going to, focus on immigrants with criminal records. How is that connected to going into schools and churches and hospitals, usually protected places? How's a 10-year-old undocumented kid fall into that category? So I'm disappointed in what I'm seeing happen at the federal level. I am encouraged by what I see at the local level in places like California and Fresno. The authorities seem to be humane and resistant. So there's hope. Number is 559-800-7080. 559-870-80. Está en 1690 West Shaw Avenue. Es la 220 en Fresno. Si necesitan ayuda en inglés o español, siempre estoy para ayudarlos.